Humans of the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. We're pushing forward with more Supreme Darkness reveals. We have about 40 cards left in the set, about half of the overall core set. We have, I believe, no new archetypes revealed so far, just all support. And we kind of continue that on here with just a handful of Sinful Spoils, just lore cards. I think there's going to be some Azamina here, some White Force, some Diabell, whatever. We'll see. It's going to be kind of a little bit all over the place, but we've seen cards in this manner where they're being released for lore be really good before. So we'll take them one at a time. Let's see how we go. Starting off here, we start with Azamina Elzette of the White Forest. So this is kind of combining Elzette from the White Forest archetype with Azamina. She kind of, she's covered in thorns. She's all evilly, I guess. I don't know what's going on in this lore. Anyway, this is a level 2 light illusion. Is very interesting because that makes her searchable off of the illusion apprentice, illusion magician, or whatever her name is. That's really cool. All right, 0 attack, 0 defense. You can only use the 3 effects of this card once per turn each. First effect, you can reveal this card in your hand as cost. Special summon a White Forest or Azamina monster from your hand. Interesting. Okay, so you just reveal this. That's nice because it means like the cost is like not really a cost. The cost, like, you know what I mean? We'd see effects like this that are like discard this card to summon one from hand. But you don't lose any hand advantage. You don't actually pay any resources to do this. You just reveal this card. That makes that a little bit better in White Forest, but this card is cool because it actually has Azamina and White Forest in its text. So this card could actually be interesting for both archetypes. Maybe even combining them. We'll see. Second effect. During your main phase, you can fusion summon one Azamina fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as material. Okay. Okay, again, like not too shabby. Giving yourself the ability to get into the Azamina fusions. Obviously, the two main fusions are the Omni-Negator as well as the Searcher, the one that searches you for a Sinful Spoils card. I don't know their materials off the top of my head, so I don't know exactly like what else you necessarily even need, if you need anything specific as the other material. But this card being one of the bodies and the fusion spell, essentially, the fusion initiator, is pretty nice. Not bad. Okay. And third effect, if this card is sent to the graveyard as synchro material, you can add one Sinful Spoils card from your deck to your hand. Whoa. That's kind of wild. So theoretically being able to like summon this straight out of the deck off of one of the Azamina monsters that, not one of them. Is it Elzette that summons from deck? Or does a Stellar summon from deck? I can't even remember which one summons from deck and which one adds. I think a Stellar summons from deck, Elzette adds. So being able to Stellar this out of the deck, synchro them off. No, you can't synchro them off because a Stellar's not a tuner. Okay, so there's like some weird stuff here on like trying to decipher exactly how you're making that work in that archetype, but it seems like this card's a little bit all over the place. I will say that. Like, maybe there's a world where these archetypes are able to be combined, these engines are able to be combined in a meaningful manner, but for right now, I don't necessarily understand the full synergy of, like, it helps you fuse, so it has the Azamina synergy, but it also wants to be synchroed off. So, like, you don't really want to use it as fusion material, but you still kind of want to use it to fuse. So it's a little bit contradictory, I feel like, the effects a little bit, but if it all ends up tying together, it could end up being really strong. I think none of its effects are bad. They're just, this card doesn't summon itself. Oh my gosh. Wait, that first effect is way better than I thought. I'm sorry, guys. Reading that first effect, I completely whiffed on it. I thought it was summoning one other White Forest Azamina, but as long as this translation is correct, this card just says reveal this card in hand to summon itself, basically. So I was thinking like, okay, it can summon another one, but you have to like open it with another one or like search it out in a combo, but you don't even have to have another card in hand. This card can just reveal itself to summon itself because it itself is an Azamina or White Forest. Then it can do what it does from there. That actually makes this a much better extender. Okay. This card's good, I think, but again, the second and third effect are just like a little bit conflicting with each other, I feel like. But explain to me if you think there's a way where they kind of all work together. Or maybe you just throw it in one of the two and use it as one or the other. Let me know your thoughts down below. All right, next up we have Sinful Spoils of the White Forest. Whoa, this is a Sinful Spoils and a White Forest card, so pretty searchable here. Quick play spell. That could be good too. You can only use the first and second effects of this card's name once per turn. If you control a Fiend, Illusion, or Spellcaster monster, activate one of these effects. Special summon a Fiend, Illusion, or Spellcaster from your hand, or fusion summon a fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as materials. So again, attempting to combine Azamina and White Forest here is what it looks like. But again, not knowing fully what the materials are off the top of my head for the Azamina fusions, I don't know exactly what they require. But the problem is some of these fusions that we're seeing here, these fusion effects here, these are like you're giving up 2 to 3 cards just to summon one of the Azamina fusions. But this is still a quick play, so it could potentially help you play around interaction. It could even make an interruption on the opponent's turn. And of course, this is a White Force card, so it has that exact stipulation you want to see, which is if this card is sent to the graveyard to activate a monster effect, you can set this card. So via White Force, being able to play this in their archetype, send this off anything, it just comes back for free, which is just a bonus there. So interesting card. It's not a super resource efficient card, but like if they combine Azamina and White Forest successfully, this could be a connective tissue card because it's very, very accessible. So we'll see. Next up we have Play the Diabell. That's interesting. This is a quick play spell. I believe Diabell is also searchable. Cards with Diabell in their name because I think the one girl searches them. Not Diabell Star, but the other one. Her like counterpart or whatever. The Floodgatey girl who's kind of like a pseudo-walking anti-spell, sort of. Alright, you can only use the first and second effect of this card once per turn. If a spell or trap is sent to the graveyard to activate a card or effect, send one illusion or spellcaster monster from your hand, deck, or extra deck to the graveyard. Second effect, during your main phase, you can banish 3 spell or trap cards from your graveyard, including this card, to special summon a Diabell monster from your hand or grave. Okay. This card's weird. It's a quick play, but it's a trigger. Right? So, you know, that's kind of weird. In White Force, it should be pretty easy to trigger because you're just doing that every turn, is you're sending a spell or trap off of one of your White Forest effects. But, and then you get a Foolish Burial for any illusion or spellcaster, which there's some utility there, I think. I don't know like how crazy it is, but there's definitely got to be some utility there. You can also Foolish from deck, which also is not bad because you can even just Foolish some of the White Forest that can come back from grave by shuffling back a White Forest monster. This card's not crazy to me. I don't think either effect like really wows me enough, especially the first effect being a trigger. If this wasn't a trigger and this could just fire at any point, that would be different. But I think because you need the trigger, it just makes it just like also being dependent on that. I know it should be live more often than not, but it's also a Diabell card, so it's not like a White Forest or a Sinful Spoils or an Azamina, so it's not like uber searchable. This one's a more weird one to me, a little more niche. One more spell, another quick play. 3 quick plays is crazy. That's crazy. Alright, this one is Link the Diabell, so another Diabell support card. This is a Stellar, I think. I think this is a Stellar in her Ecclesia, you know, garb here, almost. Alright, looking here, this is a quick play. You can only use the first and second effects of this card. Excuse me, once per turn. If a spell or trap is sent to the graveyard by card effect, okay, so again, a quick play, that's a trigger. Set 1 spell or trap from your hand or graveyard, but it cannot be activated this turn. Okay. And then during your main phase, you can banish 3 spell or traps from your graveyard, including this card, to special summon a Diabell monster from your hand or graveyard. So it looks like they're trying to develop the Diabell archetype a little bit more here. We've talked about this before, how like with Branded, like the Dogmatica archetype was out there, the Tri-Brigade archetype was out there. There were a couple different things going on, but they didn't really turn Albaz into like, you know what I mean? Lore-wise, Albaz was like a central pillar of the lore, but they didn't really make a full archetype out of him until they decided to release the branded structure deck. So these cards are kind of hinting at that, of like, is there a world where they just take Diabell Star and just the name Diabell, and they take that and like run with it, kind of how Branded did with Fallen of Albaz, right? There's a world they do that, and this is kind of hinting at that. I don't think these cards are like nearly good enough to like make that take off, but lore-wise, they're kind of just hinting at it a little bit more, which is interesting. And the final card we have here is a new Sinful Spoils. This is Sinful Spoils Awakening. We've not had the best luck with the traps. The traps have tended to be pretty weak, but we'll see. So this one is a normal trap. You can only use one of its 2 effects once per turn and only once per turn, so you got to pick one per turn. First effect says, if you control a level 5 or higher illusion and your opponent controls 3 or more monsters, target up to 3 cards they control, return them to the hand. Whoa! That is a strong effect. I mean, just bounce 3 is quite strong. Problem is your opponent has to have 3 or more monsters, so you have to let them play pretty far before you're able to even try and mess with them with this card. But okay. And then the second effect, if you control a level 5 or higher illusion monster and this card is in the grave, you can set this card to banish it when it leaves the field. Sure, just comes back. That's fine. Yeah, again, just a little too niche for me. Like the overall payoff is pretty strong, right? Bouncing 3 cards is pretty powerful, but having to have a level 5 or higher illusion, which tailors this card, like ties this card down to like a handful of very specific archetypes. And 2, the fact that your opponent has to have 3 or more monsters is brutal. If it just said, if you have a level 5 or higher illusion, bounce 3 cards, this would low-key be like a pretty decent Icarus attack type card, but I don't love letting my opponent get to 3 or more monsters, because depending on the archetype, they could, with 3, especially if you have to search this out to have it as part of your end board, your opponent could, with 3, before putting 3 monsters on the field, they could potentially put something on the board that like makes it so your board can't be targeted, makes it summon an Omni negate, or at least a spell and trap negate, so that way they just have a complete answer to this card. I don't love that. That just opens the door for a little too much play around that I wouldn't want to open up. And for a trap to be good in Sinful Spoils, with how many good options they have to search out, it has to be really, really strong. And I'm not sure this card is that. So, yeah, I honestly, and I don't want to disappoint everybody, I think the monster is the winner here. I think this card actually reads like a pretty powerful card. This spell is interesting to me because like it's going to attempt to like, at least lore wise, tie together White Woods and Azamina. We'll just have to see if it works, if there's like enough synergy there to be like worth it. And then this one, these cards being triggers are just kind of awkward to me, and also not being like uber searchable like you'd want by having Sinful Spoils or White Forest in the name, which is tough. And then this one, like I said, it's a trap, and it's not good enough as a trap to be worth it. So the winners to me are like, this one's the winner. This one could be useful, but we'll see. The other ones are more so lore padding for the moment. But yeah, those are my thoughts here. Obviously, I don't know the lore that well. That's not why I don't play Yu-Gi-Oh for the lore, so that's just not something I tend to focus on. But if you do play some of these archetypes that these cards are relevant for, I just know like kind of the basics of most of these individual archetypes and engines. Let me know your thoughts down below if you think any of these cards are better than I thought or worse than I thought. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that down below. But I'm out of here for today. Thank you so much for watching. As always, guys, I will see you in the next video. Stay tuned for all things Supreme Darkness. I mean, this puts us at about like 35 cards left in like 17 days or something. So still, like, we still have a lot of cards coming down the pipeline here. Hopefully Konami finishes strong. But I'll keep you up to date on all things that drop there. So stay tuned for more. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.